The size on the tag is right, and the outfit still looks too big. The waistband closes, the blouse does not pull across the bust, and the number is the one you expected. So why do the shoulders slide down your arms? Why do the sleeves swallow your hands? And why does the whole thing still look oversized on you? Here's the part most fitting advice skips over. The problem may not be your body, and it may not even be the size on the label. A garment can give you enough room all the way around and still be cut for a longer frame. It can be built for a taller shoulder to waist, a longer rise, and a lower knee than yours. Once you can read 5 fit points on any piece, you will know what to do. You can tell whether to change the size, try a petite or plus-petite cut, or pay for one simple alteration. The 5 points are the shoulder, the shape through the bust and waist, the rise, the knee, and the hem. Learn where each one should land, and a rack of confusing clothes turns into a set of clear yes or no checks. So before you ever size down, run a quick check. Look at the shoulder seam, the armhole, the waist or button placement, the rise, and the knee. If the garment has enough room, but those landmarks all sit too low on you, the trouble is probably proportion, not size. Sizing down would only trade a little length for a lot of tightness. Picture a plus-size blazer that closes cleanly over the bust and does not strain at the waist, yet the shoulder seam drops onto your upper arm, and the button sits below the fullest part of your middle. You could try size down, but it would pull across the bust without fixing the misplaced shoulder and button line. The better starting point is a jacket with the same room and a shorter proportion, not a smaller number. That single example holds the whole idea. Enough room, wrong placement, and the answer lives in proportion, not in a smaller size. If you have spent years assuming the fault was yours, this reframe alone can change how a store feels. You are not hard to dress. You are shopping in a system that quietly assumes one height and one set of proportions. To use those 5 points well, it helps to separate 2 different ideas, circumference and vertical proportion. Circumference is the room around you, at the bust, waist, and hip. Proportion is where the garment's landmarks fall between your shoulder and your hem. How do you know you truly have enough room through the body? Sit, reach, and cross your arms in the piece. And notice whether the fabric relaxes back into place or stays strained. Real room moves with you. This is where the word petite gets misread. Petite is a height and proportion category, not a synonym for thin. It describes a shorter frame and where the seams sit, not a smaller waistline. That is why plus-petite exists, and why it is not a contradiction. Many brands separate their fits into regular, petite, plus, and plus-petite. Plus-petite is proportioned for a fuller body on a shorter frame, roughly 5'4" and under. Here's the sentence to keep in mind while you shop. A woman can need more room around the body and less length through the frame at the same time. When both of those needs show up at once, a regular size can feel like a compromise in every direction. That is not a flaw in you. It is a pattern drafted for a different set of measurements. So the reflex to just hem everything makes sense. But it only solves one kind of problem. Hemming changes the ending point. It does not automatically move the shoulder, armhole, waist, rise, knee, dart, button, or pocket into the right place. Before you decide what to do with a piece, sort the trouble into one of 3 buckets. The fix is different for each, and guessing wrong is what costs you money and closet space. The first bucket is a circumference problem. The buttons pull, horizontal lines appear across the bust or hip, the pockets gape, or you lose all your room the moment you sit down. When that happens, the answer usually is a different size, a different cut, or a curvy fit, or fuller bust pattern with more room built in. This is the one case where changing the number really can be the move. The second bucket is a vertical proportion problem, and this is the one that fools people. The room is comfortable, but the shoulder drops, the armhole sits low, and the waist or button lands too far down your body. The answer there is rarely a smaller size. It is a petite or plus-petite cut with that same room, a mix of petite and regular pieces. Or, in selected garments, a tailor who can move the relevant point. The third bucket is the simplest. The shoulder fits, the armhole is right, the waist and rise sit where they should, and only a plain hem or sleeve end runs long. That is the piece you can take to a tailor with confidence. With one clean shortening, it can look like it was made for you. Let's take the landmarks one at a time, starting at the shoulder. The shoulder seam is one of the main points a garment hangs from. When it slides onto your upper arm, everything below it tends to follow. A drop shoulder pulls the armhole down with it, makes the sleeve read as too long, and lets the upper body sag into extra fabric. That single misplaced seam can make a whole jacket look oversized, even when the size is right. Now, a drop shoulder is not always a mistake. Plenty of relaxed tops and knits are designed with the seam past the shoulder on purpose. An intentional drop works when the neckline, the sleeve volume, the hem length, and the overall scale still look controlled. An accidental drop usually drags several other fit points down with it. That leads straight to the armhole and the sleeve, which people usually blame at the wrong end. A sleeve may not simply be long at the wrist. The armhole can sit too low, so the whole sleeve hangs below where your arm actually starts. There is a quick test for this. Lower your arms and notice whether the armhole hangs unusually low. Then, raise your arms and watch whether the entire top climbs upward with them. If fabric still bunches at the wrist after the shoulder and armhole are right, then it is a true sleeve length issue. But shortening only at the cuff while the shoulder is wrong just throws the proportion off in a new place. The middle of the body is where a larger bust and a shorter frame can pull in two directions at once. You may need more room across the chest and a shorter distance from shoulder to bust to waist. So a regular plus-size jacket might close over the bust and still be wrong. The dark points below the fullest part of the bust. The button sits low, and the waist shaping lands in the wrong spot. Sizing up for the bust only lowers those points further, so a bigger number is not the fix. A plus-petite or fuller bust cut, a softer structure, or a jacket worn open can give you the room without dropping the whole design. The waistline deserves its own look because it controls how long your torso reads. Even when a top is roomy enough, a waist seam that sits too low turns your middle into one long block of fabric. Extra fabric then pools at the upper belly or the hip. A dress can balloon above the waist, and a belt ends up cinching the wrong spot entirely. This is why the advice to show your waist on every outfit or to belt everything can backfire. If the garment's built-in waistline is wrong for you, a belt just makes that wrong point more visible. And sometimes, the best answer is no defined waist at all. On the clean, relaxed, straight cut, letting the line fall without a marked waist can look completely intentional. Below the waist, the most misjudged part of a pant is the rise and the depth of the crotch seam. It is one of the most important areas of the whole fit, and a closing waistband tells you almost nothing about it. If the rise is cut too short for you, the pant pulls and binds. If it is cut too long, loose fabric collects low between the legs and never sits clean, no matter how you tug at it. So test a pant sitting down, not just standing at the mirror. Watch whether the waistband rides up or folds over, and whether the front and back rise settle where your body actually wants them. Here is a rule worth breaking. Petite women do not all need a high rise. On a shorter torso, a very high waistband can crowd the rib cage, and a mid-rise can sit far more comfortably. The goal is not a higher rise. The goal is a rise that lands in the right place on your body. Once the rise is right, look at the knee, because a pant is shaped around it. When the knee break falls below your actual knee, the leg does the wrong thing at the wrong height. A straight leg widens in an odd place. A boot cut or flare opens too far down, and a tapered leg narrows at the wrong part of the calf. Shortening the hem does not undo any of that. Keep this one in mind at the tailor. A hem can be shortened, but it cannot move a misplaced knee break. When a piece still looks too big and you cannot say why, stop staring at the main fabric and look at the details. Pockets, buttons, and flaps carry their own scale, and petite patterns quietly move them up and in. Check whether the back pockets sit well below the seat, and whether jacket pockets fall beneath your natural hand reach. Then, notice whether a long row of buttons is pulling your whole torso downward. A big collar, a large pocket flap, or a wide cuff is not off limits on a shorter frame. The question is always scale and placement inside the whole garment, not the detail on its own. Now that you know the landmarks, here is how to run through them fast in a fitting room, in about a minute. You are not measuring anything. You are just asking 5 quick questions in order. First, check the shoulder. Is the seam where it was meant to be? And if the drop is not on purpose, is it sliding onto your upper arm? Second, check the armhole. Is it sitting unnecessarily low? And does the whole top ride up when you lift your arms? Third, check the shape through the bust and waist. Is the room comfortable? And do the dart, the button, the waist seam, or a dress waist sit at the right height? Fourth, check the lower body. Is the rise comfortable? Is the crotch depth clean? And do the pockets and the knee lines sit where they should? Fifth, and only now, check the finish. If everything above checks out, then decide on the hem, the sleeve, or the skirt length. That order is the whole trick, and it is why the 5 words are shoulder, shape, rise, knee, and hem. Those 5 points play out a little differently in each kind of garment, so let's put them to work. Start with tops, blouses, and shirts, where the shoulder, the armhole, and where the hem lands do most of the deciding. A common move is to tuck a too long top in and call it solved. But if the blouse is simply cut long, a full tuck pushes more fabric into the waistband and adds bulk right where you did not want it. A better fix is a petite or plus-petite top, a shorter length that is not cropped, or a curved hem with a small side slit. A half tuck can work too, but only when the fabric is light enough to sit flat. 2 more things help you read a top: where the neckline lands on your chest and whether the side seams hang straight. A neckline that drops too low or side seams that swing forward can signal that the top's length and balance do not match your proportions. Blazers, jackets, and coats reward a strict order of priority. Check the shoulder placement first, then the armhole, then the room across the chest, then the button and waist shaping, then the pockets, and only last, the sleeve length and the hem. The order matters because of one hard truth about tailoring. Shortening the sleeves alone will never turn a jacket into a petite jacket if the shoulder and button line are already too low. Oversized blazers are still fair game if you want them. The drop just has to look deliberate, the sleeves stay under control, the collar does not swallow you, and the length does not bury your movement. When a jacket is close on the shoulder but snug across the chest, wearing it open with a soft, unstructured line is often kinder than forcing it closed. A jacket does not have to button to look finished. Dresses hide their fit clues in the bust start, the designed waistline, and where the skirt begins to flare. These are the points a hem can never reach. Shortening only the skirt of a dress leaves the bust start and the waist seam exactly where they were, so the dress can still read as cut for a longer torso, even after the hem looks right. There is an exception worth knowing. On a waistless straight dress, a bias cut, or a soft stretch knit, the difference between petite and regular feels less fixed, because the fabric and the cut carry the shape instead of a seam. For pants and jeans, the order is just as clear. Choose the rise and the knee placement first. Hem length comes after that. One quick tell on pants. If the front pockets gape open or the side seams pull toward the front, that is often a circumference or balance issue, not a length one. That pair wants a different size or cut, not a hem. And one more distinction saves a lot of frustration. Some shorter women are comfortable in a regular rise, but simply need a shorter inseam. And a short inseam is not the same thing as a full petite proportion. Skirts come down to where the waistband sits, where the flare opens, and where the hem lands on your leg. A midi label tells you nothing on its own. With a skirt, also notice where the hip shaping falls and where an A-line starts to open. If the widest part of the flare begins below your hip, the skirt can add width exactly where you did not intend. It is not true that a shorter woman cannot wear a midi skirt. What matters is where that midi actually ends on your calf, how it flares, and the line it draws down to your shoe. All of this raises the real question in the fitting room. Buy it and alter it, or keep looking? Tailoring is neither a miracle nor a waste, and the trick is knowing which changes are cheap and which are not. Some alterations are usually simpler. They can include a plain hem, an uncomplicated sleeve end, a little taken in at the side seams, or a strap shortened by an inch. Even those depend on the piece, though. A lining, a cuff, a heavy zipper, or a matched print can turn a small job into a real one, so a simple-sounding fix is not always cheap. Other changes are genuinely structural. Moving a shoulder, rebuilding an armhole, shifting a jacket's button and pocket line, raising a dress waist, or reshaping a rise and knee are bigger, costlier jobs. So before you commit to a piece and a tailor, ask a short set of questions in order. Are the hardest to change structural points already right? Is there enough room for your bust, waist, belly, hip, and thigh? Then ask whether the only trouble is one simple finishing length, whether the cost of the work fits the value and the wear you will get, and whether a petite or plus-petite version of the same item even exists. One line pulls the whole decision together. Shop for the hardest to alter areas first, and alter the simpler finishing details second. If you want a simple map for all of this, here is a short decision guide you can run in your head. It moves from the whole garment down to the fine details, and it usually points you straight to the answer. First, if a piece pulls or feels tight almost everywhere, do not reach for petite. Try a different size or a more generous cut before anything else. Second, if the room is comfortable, but the shoulder, waist, rise, and details all sit low, look for a petite or plus petite version with that same room. That is proportion talking, not size. Third, if the whole structure is right and only a hem or a sleeve end runs long, a single alteration is very likely enough. That is the easy, happy case. Fourth, and this one surprises people, you are allowed to mix categories. If petite tops come up short, but a regular top fits your shoulders, and a pant sits best in petite, then buy a regular top with a petite bottom. Your body is not one standard proportion package that has to match on top and bottom. Buying 2 different length categories for 2 different halves is normal, not a workaround. Fifth, if a piece is meant to be oversized, do not judge it only by whether it is loose. Watch the neckline opening, the shoulder, where the sleeve exits, the scale of the pockets, and whether the balance holds when you move. If you take only one counterintuitive idea from all of this, make it this one. The most common instinct, to grab the neck size down, is often the exact move that makes a garment fit worse instead of better. A few stubborn myths are worth clearing away before we look at real examples. The first is that a smaller size always looks tidier. In truth, a size too small brings pulling, binding, and horizontal tension, which reads as strained, not neat. The second is that a petite plus-size woman cannot wear volume or a wide leg. She can when the waist, rise, knee, and total length sit right. It is placement, not the width of the leg, that keeps volume looking controlled. The third is that a dark color fixes proportion. Color cannot physically carry a drop shoulder or a low waist into place. Fit and structure come first, and then color and style are yours to enjoy. Let's make this concrete with a few women you might recognize, none of them real, each facing a different call. The point is not the exact numbers, but the decision each one leads to. Picture someone about 5'2" in a size 18, trying on a regular blazer. It closes over the bust and does not strain at the waist, so the size looks right at first glance. But the shoulder seam sits on her upper arm, the button lands below her fullest point, and the sleeves run long. A size down would only pull at the bust, so a better starting point is a plus-petite blazer with the same room. Now picture someone about 5'1" with a long torso and shorter legs. Petite tops come up too short on her, while a regular top fits her shoulders well. At the same time, a regular pant leaves the rise and the knee sitting low. So her best combination is a regular top with a petite pant, which is exactly the kind of mix people are told to avoid. Picture a third woman, around 5'3", with a fuller bust. A petite shirt fits her shoulders and sleeve length, but it pulls across the chest, and sizing up drops the shoulder all over again. Her way out is not a number at all. It is a plus petite or fuller bust cut, a better button placement, a fabric that flows without clinging, or an open layer that gives the bust room. And picture one more woman who already shortened the hems on a flared pant. The hems no longer drag, so at a glance, the problem looks solved. But the flare opens from well below her knee instead of just under it. The back pockets sit low, and the rise is long. The hem was only the ending point, and the ending point was never the real issue. It is worth saying plainly that not every relaxed fit is a mistake. A soft cardigan with a gentle drop shoulder, controlled sleeves, and a hem that ends at the right point can look entirely deliberate. That is intentional ease, not a fit error. When the fabric moves and never presses on the body, the aim was never to shrink the woman inside it. It was a design that simply looks controlled. You might be thinking that petite never works for you because petite sleeves always come up short. That may mean you have longer arms, a longer torso, or both, and height was only ever a starting point. The fix is to shop by the piece, not by a single label. A regular top, a petite pant, or a 3/4 sleeve can each solve one part of the puzzle without forcing everything into one category. If plus petite is hard to find where you shop, start from the piece that fits your hardest points, like the shoulder and the rise. Favor simpler, cleaner pieces that take well to alteration, and check the real garment measurements instead of trusting one brand's tag. And if you love an oversized look, nothing here is telling you to dress tight. Relaxed, roomy clothes are welcome. The differences between intentional controlled volume and volume that simply landed in the wrong place. If your body has changed in recent years, you do not need to relearn everything from scratch. Knowing your current bust, waist, hip, arm, and inseam simply makes shopping faster and more accurate. Bodies and comfort needs can change over time, so measurements that worked years ago may no longer describe the fit you prefer today. That is ordinary, and it is worth updating a few numbers when you can. As for whether tailoring is always worth it, the honest answer is no. Weigh the price of the piece, its fabric and structure, how often you will wear it, and how hard the change really is before you hand it over. Here is a small assignment that turns all of this into a habit. Go to your closet and pull 3 pieces: 1 blazer or jacket, 1 pant, and 1 dress or long top. Lay each one against the same 5 points. Check the shoulder, then the shape through the bust and waist, then the rise, then the knee, then the hem. You will start to see that some of your wrong size pieces were never the wrong size at all. They were cut too long through the frame, and now you know exactly which part to change. So let's bring this back to where we started, with that outfit that fit the tag and still looked too big. The goal was never to make you look smaller. The goal is a better proportioned fit. It brings the garment's own design points, the shoulder, the waist, the rise, the knee, and the hem, to where they belong on the body you have now. When a size runs too big in all the wrong places, that is the label failing to describe you. It is not your body failing to fit the label. Read those 5 points before you blame yourself or the mirror, and most of the mystery disappears. You will know when to change the size, when to reach for petite or plus petite, and when one simple alteration is all it takes. So tell me one thing. Which fit point causes you the most trouble right now? The shoulders, the sleeves, the waist placement, the rise, or the pant length?